Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Lazy Yogis. This is Somyajit, and I create a lot of playlists regarding many things. Recently, I bought a Xiaomi Pad 6, so I created an unboxing video. Then I talk a lot about data, and today's topic is also about data and certification. Please do like and subscribe. Do check out my videos also. I some many a times I share about my personal life also, so it's just a mix type of channel where I share a lot of things. Okay, today's topic is today's discussion is a little bit lengthy. Recently I got master data quality manager ISO 8000 certified, which is a kind of a another achievement of mine, and I did the course from ECCMA. So all of the learnings from ECCMA today I'm going to summarize, as well as I will show my collections of ISO 8000 materials. These are not easy to find, but some of my friends had, so I collected it from them. But I don't have all the parts, and also we will go through the contents of the different ISO materials. And okay, let's without further ado, let's begin. The certification, why I did it, because as a data engineer, I want to move myself up towards the in some other role in data governance, and one of the data governance module is data quality, as well as master data management reporting. So from being data engineer and a data analyst, I want to move myself up towards that, so I did this ISO certification. ISO certification, it's mandatory or not, you have to find it yourself, because I will, for me it was not mandatory, but I did it because of this triangle. In the whole world there are best practices from each organization, and it depends on them how they maintain their data warehouse, which model they use it, etc., etc. It totally depends on them. But on the top of the best practice, there are standards, and there are laws. So it's better for a data engineer or a person who aspires to make his or her whole career in data to learn about all these things, and so that it gives them confidence, and obviously certification adds feathers to your wings. So it's better to follow the best practice, but then it's better to implement standards, because if there is an audit, then you are safe. Also, this training, all the materials that I'm using is or all the content that I'm using, the whole of the credit goes to ECMA. I have collected all the contents from ECMA training materials, as well as from Wikipedia and some other sources. Please don't do a copyright case on me or anything, please, because it's all my learning, and some of the snapshots I have used from ICMA training materials. So all the credit goes to them, guys, and do check their training materials from the website. It is free to register, and it's always good to have certifications. So I am ISO 8000 certified now, and one of the requirement is also that if you want to if you aspire to be a auditor, and you want to audit a team of data engineers, data managers, or a team led by a data director, then in audit, these are the points that you can check, because this is my learning, or this is the cream out of this whole training that I did. To verify the data is compliant with this, there are a lot of texts, but then it was required for me to include all these texts, because otherwise ISO 8000 is not that easy, guys. There are a lot of materials to read. I think it will take 6 months to read, and it took me 3 months to complete this whole training. So for you guys, I have made it summarized, so please do bear with me. If you want to become an auditor, then these are the questions you can ask. That is, if a data is ISO 8000 compliant, then you should be able to read the data, which means suppose your master data is in an environment which is like SAP, then it must be portable. like you are able to extract the data from the application itself to Excel or to any data warehouse. So you should be able to read the data and access the data. Then there should be proper encoding methods used. Encoding methods is used like for example, if you have a class in your master data, if you have identifiers in your master data, class and identifier you will read it later, but then encoding means those class and identifiers are coded in a proper structure, like for example 016 dash 0, something like there is proper encoding techniques used. Then you're able to extract the data in a right format, and ISO 8000 says you have to extract the data into the recommended is SDB format. Read about SDB format in Google, you can find the definition of it. And then there should be certain characteristics the data should have in order to, like a property value or right primary keys. So there are certain characteristics that the data need to have in order to satisfy the ISO 8000 requirement. Focus on master data management. Okay, I'll leave that for now. Manufacturer, supplier, distributor, the supplier of data and tech specifications, obviously it is. So you can ask them, okay, what are the documents that the manufacturer has supplied to? For example, you are buying trucks, or for example, you are buying nut bolts, you are buying certain inventory items. Then you can ask the manufacturer for, because if you have to maintain the master data, then you need the specification materials from the manufacturer. Manufacturer, supplier, distributor, from everyone you have to ask the specifications, and accordingly you have to devise your master data stuff there. Are there sufficient requesting specification? Means, for example, if you are making writing a mail or making asking questions to the manufacturers or a distributor, then what is the format of it? Further, you can also ask questions about whether the master data is ISO compliant or not. For example, you can ask questions about whether the provenance data is maintained or not. For example, excuse me, if the data is changing, then regarding the changing dimension, or if there is a change, then on which date the data was changed. So maintaining a column of the dates is very much necessary. Then whether the data is accurate or complete or not, so those are the standards that are maintained or not, and the data is validated or not from the end users, etc. Conforms to a data specification. Well, regarding data specification, we are going to check, and data specification has a links to identifiers and data portability. We are going to study about that later in this slide. Then pardon, is coded concepts is coded using concepts in a data dictionary or not? So ISO 8000 also speaks about data dictionary, and in data dictionary there is something used called concepts. And what do I mean by concepts is that concepts can be of several types. That is, whether it can be a class. For example, oil can be a class, and under oil it can be cooking oil or lubricant or any kind of oil. So if you are maintaining a column of fuel, then you're saying LNG, LPG, then petroleum, then diesel or petrol, and all belongs to the oil class. Then property, all the columns, actually in a table there are different columns. The columns are called property, and the header, that means it is called property, and the data that is present there is called property value. Then features of the data, like whether the data is string or int, when it gets updated, so all those information also goes under concept. Language of representation of data, whether it's in English or Spanish or German, etc. Unit of measure, okay. Qualifier of measure means that what is the precision of the data, that information. Accuracy percentage, range, means all there is a column, and all this qualifier of measure information is there or not. property value and currency. So then for data to become ISO 8000 compliant, then all this information is maintained or not in the master data. Is it conforming to formal syntax? We'll read about it later. Then yeah, this one we covered in these 3 parts only. Okay, so then you can ask these questions as an auditor. Further, we went through this. Also, as an auditor, you can check what like some of the templates that were given in the ISO 8000 were, and this is in the ECCMA training itself. So all the credit goes to them. That how many active vendors, how many materials, active materials, how many deduplicated vendor count. So all these templates are there or not for like a summary template to identify or to read about the master data or to get a hold of what is the quality of the master data maintained. Also some further auditing template samples that were given in ISO 8000, and also here like it's a summary of, okay, like if you are if they are doing an ISO certification, ISO auditing of the maintenance department, the maintenance department is purchasing materials, and then okay, there this kind of templates are they maintaining or not, like triple H, high total cost, high unit, high total number of suppliers, that is given priority 1. So number of materials, percentage of material, classes, total percentage spend. So all these like a summary they are maintaining or not, like this is mostly the finance sheet, but then is it being maintained or not? So okay, this is from auditor's point of view, that you can ask these questions, and to ensure if a company is saying that they are ISO 8000 compliant, or if they have implemented ISO, then you can ask these questions from auditor's point of view. Then also suppose in a company, you are a big company, and then you create contracts for suppliers, distributors, then you can include, because then further down the line or the months, you have to ask data from the contractors, means from the distributors and suppliers. So you can formulate a data contract with them by putting all these clauses that okay, you have to supply me data in compliance with the data shall be ISO compliant, something like that, something like these clauses, and data should be in this format. All these conditions can be written down in that contract itself. So this is also one of the application of ISO 8000. Then from a supplier point of view, this is from a contractor point of view, and this is from a supplier point of view. So these are the clauses you can mention. Then also as an organization, as a data guy, you know about standard definitions. For example, what is a structured data? Many people say that structured data is highest quality data. That is a kind of a very general definition they give, but ISO 8000 defines this structured data format is XML format. That is maybe it's outdated, or maybe people, that is why I said the best practice is followed by the company itself. So for data exchange, structured data, it should be in XML format. That is what mentioned in ISO, but it can be something different. Then technical specification complies with this code. It is encoded using an open technical dictionary. We will read about open technical dictionary. Let's see it now. What is an open technical dictionary? Well, ECCMA, the organization, has created their own master data dictionary, where for example, if you want to search for truck, then you can get a very okay, let me search here. So for example, if I want to see the definition of truck, because in many organizations, even I also create a data dictionary, and so for a truck I will say that a vehicle that can carry 20 ton, but these are all vague definitions. But so if someone wants to have a kind of a standard definition, then you can already copy paste from here, and that too in multiple languages. So they have created the open technical dictionary, and it is worldwide accepted, so you guys can follow it from here. Okay, so this is a kind of an example also application. So we saw from audit point of view application of ISO 8000, from making a contract point of view the advantage of ISO 8000, and from knowledge point of view also that the advantage of knowing the conditions of ISO 8000. Okay, then moving forward, I will take it little bit fast here. This is a kind of an introduction about ECCMA. ECCMA, the definition is Electronic Commerce Code Management Association, is headquartered in USA, and all the details you can find in their website also. So this organization, I have taken the certification of this organization, and then how this ISO 8000 was developed. This was mainly developed by NATO and ECCMA jointly, and yeah, for defense logistics it is being used, and it is for their asset, product, component, and other management of data in their systems, and that is what it has spread across the whole world now. And the scope of the presentation is I will be going through the parts of ISO 8000, parts of ISO 22745, and general definitions and concepts. Auditor's perspective, I have already said you guys before that from auditing point of view, what are the questions you can already ask to the organization, okay, about the master data. Some definitions, then why is data quality necessary? From a cost point of view, it is mandatory, and data it costs money to acquire and to maintain, and it is a part and parcel of every organization now. It is being used for assessment. A quality data is highly needed for machine learning programming, output predictions, and a high quality data is the need of the hour, because non-quality or lack of quality in the data can lead to bias, lot of chaos, confusion, then wrong predictions. So it's very much necessary to maintain quality. Then principles of data quality is that from an ISO perspective is that a quality data is something that is always portable. It can be ported, it can be extracted from the application. It has a certain also characteristics that we're going to see later, but the big definition is that data is said to be of high quality if it fits the purpose. It's a little bit subjective to define data quality. Well, the end user decides whether the data is of high quality or not. That is the most important part. There is no standard definition of it. Even ISO says that there must be an agreed level of data quality between stakeholders that will be used. Agreed level. So they also say that their definition is that the data which is fit for purpose is said to be of high quality data, and it should be portable. That is the feature they have added to it, that it needs to be portable, not limited to the application inner environment itself, but people should be able to extract it. Then extent of quality. If we are saying that we need high quality data, but what is the extent of it? There is nothing kind of any measurement towards it, but the data should be meeting the stated requirements. And whose stated requirements? It is the end user stated requirements. That is the definition as per ISO 8000 for data quality. They also say that data that exceeds stated requirement does not increase the quality of data. So, for example, like if a customer master data asks only customer asks only non-null rows in the data in the table, and you wrote a extensive deep code that which not only removes the non-null rows but also non-zero rows it eliminates, but then the customer needs the non-zero so something like that is a kind of non-required, redundant, not necessary. So whatever the customer asks, that is the highest quality data for that moment. If there is further requirement, then that will go into backlog and then it will be worked on that. So data quality is a kind of a subjective and the quality lies or beholds on with the hands of the person who is asking. So the person has to give a rating of that quality. Then further moving in ISO, then ISO 8000 defines information, data, what is data mapping, what is copyright. The interesting definition is the data mapping. Remaining, I will leave the users to read from the slide itself. Identifying data elements that represent the same concept is called data mapping. Very, very important. And however, it doesn't identify data element relationships. It's just representing the same concept. Even the properties or the column names or the identifiers are different, but it represents the same concepts. That is called data mapping. Then yeah, these are all very basic slides, and here the most important thing is this one: a raw data that is transformed to an information, then it is more transformed from based on the insights and analytics, transformed to knowledge, and that knowledge from a kind of a matrix or a key data point or key analytic point or a KPI, a key performance indicator, it becomes a wisdom or a learning or a big information for the company itself. Okay, ISO 8000 has multiple parts, and we are going to now see through those parts. But then before that, ISO 8000 is a series of international standards and focuses on establishing reliable. These are some basic properties of ISO 8000: recognizing data as an asset, trust on data and information. The data should be portable. There should be traceability of data because that is the provenance part, and explicit data requirements. Corresponding values. Then ISO 8000 provides guidelines and requirements and helps in formation of contracts, and also helps to define the expectation and requirements, and gives the templates, also gives for auditing some points, and it's actually the ISO 8000 ISO documents are made based on common consensus, and there are a group of people coming together, experts, and they made something. It's better to for a new person who is entering the data world, then it's better to go through it to have a kind of a feel about the standard definitions. That is what I will say. Nobody has to learn it by heart because many organizations have different way of working, so I will leave it to that. Quality, data quality definition: degree to which a set of inherent characteristics of a data fulfills certain requirements. If a data is fulfilling certain requirements and is fit for the purpose, then it is called data quality. It's called data quality. That is called quality. Like CSCV, that is completeness, accuracy, consistency, and validity. These are my four pillars that I use in coding for making the data fit for purpose. It conforms the characteristics to requirements. Regarding requirements, we're going to see in the further slides. Something general. Okay, so these are the ISO parts. ISO 8000 is all about overview. ISO 8002 is about vocabulary. ISO 8, measuring and reporting, some prerequisites for measuring information. ISO 8051 is about exchange of data, policy statements. Then 61 is process reference model, measure data quality, applying test process measurement questionnaire. ISO 150 is roles and responsibility. This one I have also collected some ISO. I have ISO 61 here. ISO 61 is process reference model. I can open it for you guys, and okay. So this was the most intriguing part or analytic part that I found for myself. and then who are the what are the things that are done in the data part, and then what are the things, how the process should be, quality control, implementation, quality assurance, quality improvement, and it's like a cycle. And there is a planning. They also talk about the backlogs, and they also talk about monitoring part and the measurement part. So please go through this book if you have. And also I have other parts, but then the ISO 150 150 talks about roles and responsibility, and this is the most interesting part that I found in ISO 150 quality management framework, where quality management framework, where this one was the most interesting part, because this is a kind of eye opener for me, where whose role is what. For example, a data manager's role in data operations, data monitoring and improvement. Operations, monitoring and improvement, these are the three like a goals they have set for data quality. And in operations, the data manager has to create the data architecture management, data administrator has to do the data design, data technician has to do the data processing, which is the ETL part, then data quality management. So everyone's role and job card is defined here, and if you read more, then you will know about it. So then it gives a kind of an overview in master data part, whose role is what. And there are a lot of other parts about provenance history, requirements of making judgment, about data. 130 and 140 is about accuracy and completeness, accuracy and how one can define a data is accurate or not. Then let me see, I didn't go through it, but then accuracy of the master, they speak about accuracy of the master data. And then property value assignment. Property value means you have a table, there are columns, and the data in the columns are called property value. Records the accuracy for the accuracy, okay, has its recorded by wherein date time, detail string, accuracy method, name. Okay, but then I leave it to people. Include measure of data accuracy, claim the claim process. For me, if I have to see a data is accurate or not by confirming with the end users and the manufacturers, or the owner of the data, that is what I am going to do. But then you can already read about data accuracy and data completeness. What are the points that they have mentioned there? I didn't cover it because it is ISO, because it's a lot to read. So then I'm just showing it, giving the guidance, so that you already know what to do where. These two elements I skipped because it was not needed. Okay, for example, in ISO 8110, suppose there can be a situation where the master data is represented in different languages. Then one of the solutions that ISO provides for the master data is that ISO 8000 has three key points. One is syntax, format and characteristics. So this one is the syntax or the semantic coding, not the syntax, the semantic coding, encoding. And encoding is something like this, where for English language semantic coding is this, for Spanish it is this, for the same bolt machine and definitions. So then in your database you have a data dictionary where you can already go to this code and see what is the definition of it, and retrieve the data accordingly for the English part. So that is how they maintain the data. and I haven't done it implemented. I lack experience in ISO 8000. This is just what I learned from the training. That is the information I'm giving you guys. Format is SDB format, or or any format that you are saving, SQL or any JSON format or any format you are saving. And then characteristics is that whether it has a class or not, whether it is defined or not properly or not. So that those are the things we're going to see in the subsequent slides. Okay, so what are the characteristics of a data? A data characteristics includes that it is of the format that ISO 8000 is suggesting for saving the data is the SDB format. So they talk about compression and repressing techniques that reduce the physical space to store the data. Means in the database, what are the things needs to be done. Then for encoding, they have certain points for encoding. It can be that you are for encoding, or don't get confused between encoding and primary key, because in some certain cases in a data table the primary key can also be the encoding encoding to a particular row done. Because I checked with chatgpt, sometimes it can happen that encoding and primary key are both the same, but many times it can be different. In the sense means ISO 8000 talks about class, but I at least in the company where I'm working, there is no class data dictionary maintained. We have customer table and we just maintain the customer table, that's it. So I find it very overwhelming with the information. But then encoding techniques also, what I do is that I just create a random keys for encoding, but it is better to create a kind of joint key or a kind of a known key based on company standards, so that that will be followed everywhere in the database, and it is intuitive then. Syntax for the syntax part, then ISO 8000 says about this, and in the table in the book itself there were certain formats: XML format, SDB format. So these were the formats. I have just enlisted it here, and then this is a kind of message for what they receive from the master data. And this is the product value information. Product value information is like your table in the database, but then these are all the head columns, and that is called property here. And this is a single record, and each single record is referenced by a property value semantic encoding. It's like this is arranged in the row format, but then if you unpivot it and then put it in all the columns, then everything becomes a single row with a single primary key towards the starting, like an index. These messages are exchanged through EDI, and each message should have a kind of encoding to it. That is what we are talking about here. And each record, each row, you can encode it, and then each item also you can encode it. That is what they are talking about here, because encoding helps us to prevent ambiguity of natural language. For example, if in a big company you are if a global company and it exchanges data to Spanish guys from Britain, then they need the master data in Spanish. So then to avoid that ambiguity of natural language, it's better to do it to encode it. Then regarding encoding, it is discussed here in this code. So for further with the definition of semantic encoding, then for example there are different languages, and in different languages a master data is defined like this. Then the idea is that to create a single concept and with a single ID, and then that ID is saved in different concept classes. Concept types we already discussed. So in different different classes with the same meaning, it is saved in their respective countries master data. But then all the IDs are mapped to a common concept here. That is the most important learning here. And in ISO, the means in ECMA training, they said that this is how the the application of semantic encoding is something like this, and there is a concept ID is given, and that it's in XML format. That is how the data exchange happens, and each property has its own encoding. I will skip this one. I will skip this one. Then data specification as per ISO. If you say what are the data specifications, then each master data message must contain its header, like a reference or a code or a semantic encoding should be there. Then and that should be in a form of unambiguous identifier, and it uses concepts from data dictionary, which is the EOTD, that is the ECMA Open Technical Dictionary. That is what ISO says. Means in this ECMA training I learned. Not exactly ISO says, but then in this training material it says. The definitions are taken from the EOTD, and there is a proper use of this reference identifiers, which is like in this format, property IDs. Then this is a kind of an example. Let's skip it. The ISO 8000 says the data should be portable, and we should be able to, the user should be able to extract the data. There should not be any lock-in, and the requirements of portable data is that the data which is able to which is portable, it should have a data dictionary. So then if you are say doing auditing, then you can ask about the data dictionary and what are the data being imported or exported from that exported from the application, and then whether it has data dictionary or not. Identifying applicable syntax, the format to save data, whether the data is able to be transferred from one system to another, and with the same number, and the reconciliation is done for the data between after the data is transferred, then the reconciliation is right. That is also should be implemented. Company can make their own corporate dictionary and own rules. It also supports that they shouldn't be very harsh on following the EOTD itself, but companies can create their own dictionary. But better it is to follow one standard. Portable data, for the definition, it should have a file name, character encoding, etc. Be a valid JSON text. Okay, consist of characters as per UTF. Have metadata available and have reference data available. These are the properties of portable data that is discussed in ISO. Then this is a kind of format. Then identifiers. Identifiers are like those codes, and they are unambiguous pointers, and each identifier has its own owner of the identifier, and they are responsible for maintaining the data set. Already we discussed about the roles and responsibilities, and quality criteria setup. Maybe this data administrative manager who is owning that data, and they are maintaining that identifiers. And through identifiers, we are able to easily retrieve the data also, and which master data to which part, etc., etc. Some more definitions about identifiers. Okay, and then maybe this is a good example where I have shown how identifiers can be used to extract the master data. For example, identifier is an ID. It's an ID something like this. It can be it should be insightful. That is the technique. Make it insightful. It has a legal owner, and then it that each ID has a reference towards a characteristic data, and characteristic data is constituent of property values, which is like property at the column names, and it has a class. It has, and the other it's like a row in your master table. If you have a single master table in the whole company, then it's like one, this is something like a one single row with a primary key to it. You have to think in that way, because I also was very confused with this thing, but then I have understood in this way. Then yeah, each master data should have provenance. For example, yeah, the master data, and it should have a source state and source organization, who is downloading, who is uploading, what are the changes made. There should be a kind of a date available to it, and that is also one of the auditing point that you can ask. Okay, ISO architecture, then the master data follows this ISO, the requirement follows this ISO up to 2745, this ISO, and regarding ISO 22745, these are the all the ISO document, but I don't have any ISO 2275 document, but I have made a kind of a presentation out of it, where it constitutes the specification, formats and procedures about the dictionary and some properties. These are the parts of ISO 22745. I'm not going into the detail, but mainly I will use it for data dictionary. Then the open technical dictionary of ECCMA is defined here. It contains the standard definition that many experienced people have defined, and that can be copy pasted by the different organizations. Explicit definitions, provides timely and accurate data, provide transparent data, supports sourcing, inventory management, etc. Identification guide specifies, okay, the data because this EOTD, it can already give these are the identifiers of this class and this particular element, because the term truck hand. So this is what it is. And truck trolley. What is the definition? A non-powered vehicle with one or more wheels, cluster or attached directly to the bottom. If I could find, okay. So this is what they are talking about, the handles, the truck handle, the truck hand. So as you can see, each definition has its own identifier, and that is what and if and then whatever master data we are saving, we have to give reference to this identifier and to this class also, to this concept. So that is what ISO 22745 covers, to how to maintain a catalog, data catalog, and how to maintain a dictionary. And then you can also maintain a concept dictionary in your own organization. Concept dictionary means, for example, what are the these are called the concept. These are called the class concepts that we already saw. What are the different type of concepts? That is. It can be a class, it can be property value, it can be a language of presentation. So you can maintain what are the different concepts you use. For example, I use only 4 concepts in the. You can maintain a kind of introductory in your first page of your dictionary, that these are the concepts that are being used in the organization for maintaining the master data. Okay, page 45, we are till here, and then. Examples of concept, this is this concept. Okay, we have already covered this. So ISO 22745 I will mainly use for data dictionary, and ISO 8000 will be mostly used for this encoding and portable data. Then it has provenance or not, what are the accuracy, what is the completeness, whether data is accurate, complete, and what is how the validity is done, how the exchanging of data is done. That is what I will use ISO 8000 for. This is the architecture for ISO 8000. I will leave you guys to understand it, because it should, master data should conform to a particular specification. It means encoding, then data is saved in a database, or it is extracted, saved in a hard disk in a STV format or XML format, something like that. And then whether we are querying the data from the manufacturers rightly or not. Then it conforms to a proper syntax, means primary key or the identifiers how it is used. Then how it is, how we are maintaining the data dictionary, whether you are using concepts or not, whether which are you maintaining the classes or not, data owner information is there or not, users like we saw, whose role is what, and that also ISO says. Then is it properly mentioned or not. And then if somebody asks some data about some data for master data, for example truck axle, what is the master data for truck axle is there in maintenance, with maintenance team, whether they are able to extract it rightly or not. And then also some of the templates that we already discussed about it, some of the templates that for auditing ISO provides, and whether you are maintaining those templates rightly or not, as a summary. Then for example, I am a customer, and I am asking the supplier, for example, we are like I am in a company, and the external third party is asking me some data. Then to make a data to ask data, there are certain criteria, a certain way of making a request, and whether those requests are standardized or not. For example, whether the data exchange happening, you can exchange data in Excel format, or you can just share a SharePoint. But then ISO says that the exchange should be in XML format, and that is their technique, and they are not hard and fast on it. Sharing or making a request over mail and then sharing it through a SharePoint or giving access, something that depends from business to business here actually. And whether that those informations are maintained or not, that whether the data was shared to this big party on a certain date, so those informations are maintained or not. Corporate dictionary, whether in a company a corporate dictionary is maintained or not, and whether everyone is trained or aligned with it or not. Then all the reports, spreadsheet, everything is according to the dictionary or not. Whether means that is what ISO says, and what they are trying to do is that rather than you creating your own definition, use the Open Technical Dictionary for cataloging. And yeah, we skip this one. We discussed about this. Okay, defining the master data. They are defining master data as data held by an organization that describes entities that are both independent and fundamental. Master data is data that identifies and describes entities that a business needs. Very important, that a business needs. A master data is a record made up of class and characteristics. We already saw what is the meaning of class and what is the meaning of characteristics. Characteristics we already saw here, that this is a characteristic data, and the characteristic data has the name of the column names. If you unpivot it, then it will be the column names, and this is a single record, and that single record has a primary key or an identifier. So that is called characteristic data. And then master data has a class and characteristic data. So if you are maintaining a record, maintaining a table where there is no class and the characteristic data is not rightly maintained, then the master data is corrupt. That is what we can say it. ISO also discusses about authority of the master. There should be data owners. That is what they also discuss. And each data owner or a change of data owner, there should be provenance to it, and there should be a controlled workflow design or a process around maintaining the master data. And everyone should be able to track the source. That is also one of the requirement of master data. So one of the audit question can be Are you able to track the source data source or not? That is also one of the auditing question that can be asked. Okay, then okay, authority we discussed. And then authoritative data owner of a process that creates data. Source is the official origination where it follows ISO this, and that maintains the attribute. Authority means these are the roles, data owners roles that is being defined: creating data, maintaining data, and then has a responsibility to direct and manage the data. So even the data owners can have multiple roles. One can be authoritative data origin, authoritative source, and authoritative party, something like that they have defined, but I'm not going to detail. Maybe one guy is sufficient in a company, but then data owners can be a lot, but then one guy is only managing the data, one guy is sufficient for it. But then if you have billions of euros of equipments, then I think more people, you need data steward. Means it's better to follow this diagram, ISO diagram for roles and responsibilities for data quality, because this is clear. Data dictionary, ISO says maintain a data dictionary, corporate dictionary, and with provenance. That is what they are saying. Characteristic data, we define characteristic data is a data set which is a performance data of property and values, and this is a single row in a table. That is what I have understood till now, and each row, each character data has an identifier. Class property, a class is a group of, class is just like oil, and inside oil you can have cooking oil, engine oil, etc. Class is like a parent group, something like that. Property is a characteristics of an item to identify. These are like attributes. For example, oil or a valve, then these are the attributes of that valve, you can say. Property value, we already know this is a single record. Property value, rather than saying column and data, it's better to say property value and class which it belongs for master data. Identification of the data through use of identifiers, and identifiers should be meaningful. That is what they are saying. Identifier should it's a string of characters created by an organization. There should be an originator or owner of the identifiers, and it follows this ISO. All identifiers should be formatted as per this. All legal entity identifiers should be identified through ISO 816. So they have certain rules, regulations for it, and how an identifier should be. But identifier, I will say these are primary keys, and it depends on the company how to make those primary keys. Many times in our company, it is random. Transaction data is a record of a historic event. Transaction data are the transactional data, not the master data itself. The definition is that it should be stored as an immutable, unchangeable record, and is a record of historic events. That is how they have defined the transaction data. It's a history of events. Data dictionaries, they have further information like this. Catalog template, for example, in a data dictionary, you can also mention that which columns are mandatory, which columns are optional. That also you can mention in the data catalog, or which properties are mandatory and which properties are optional. That is also one of the question one can ask here. Mandatory and which are optional. Creating a record also you can ask for data dictionary or during auditing. Well, I have been talking about primary key and property value ID as kind of a similar, but then in many concepts I asked ChatGPT about it, and in many situations it could be different. The property value ID could be used as a primary key if the data model or standard is implemented in database system. This means that a property value ID, the purpose of it is to uniquely identify a record. That is the purpose of a property identifier. A property value ID, which is similar to primary key. The usage of a property ID as a primary key would depend on specific implementation requirement. While consider have seen they solve different purposes. The property ID unique identifies individual attribute value pairs. It individually identifies attribute value pairs within a data model standard, whereas primary key uniquely identifies rows in a database table. So means if there are 10 columns, then for the 10 columns there is a single one primary key, but then from the 10 columns the property value ID could be defined for 4 columns, which is like the real information about the characteristic data, and other are not needed for to define the property value or define under the property value ID. What I meant is that here you have number of properties, like these are the or maybe this is a good example. Here you have number of properties here, but if you unpivot it and put it in columns, then there can be hundreds of columns, but then from it these are the items or properties that define a particular class or particular item. So then a property value ID will constitute this many columns only, whereas a primary key defines all the 100 columns that are being mentioned. So that is the difference between property value ID and primary key. Good definition by ChatGPT. Then data catalog, it starts from original item which is defined in the manual that is given by the manufacturer itself. Then we create a dictionary out of it. Then we create a structured data, which is a characteristic data. We take some elements from the manufacturer's manual and then create our own standard definition. That is how a cataloging sequence is done. The steps that is followed is create a dictionary terminology, extract the reference data. First of all, create something like a summary from the manual. Extract the reference data, something like this. Assign class from EOTD, that is search for those items of master data here. For example, if I have to search customer, customer is a person that receives a product, for example. So they have these standard definitions. Then assign class to it, assign template to it, like a property value. Create this property value template for that catalog. Extract values from the manual given by the manufacturer, or you have something from your own. Standardize values, validate it, and then apply general descriptions to it from the EOTD. Regarding data warehousing, they mentioned something, but then nowadays with ELT and data lake feature, then nowadays with cloud technology, this is a kind of redundant now. So data warehouse, but then you can take some motivation out of it. And data request from people, ISO 22740 is a standard format for the exchange of reference and cache data in a simple XML format. This is what they say for if there is a data requester and data provider is there and they are seeking data, then it's better to do it in XML format. But then nowadays company have their own, because everyone is busy, there are non-technical people, so you do not want to give a technical data to non-technical people, so then people exchange in Excel and we allow with that. But then somehow that needs to be standardized, something like that. Lastly, the data labels. For example, if you are writing a AI code and you are labeling, for example, you have implemented AI vision, and then through AI vision you have labeled the data, given label to the photographs. example. No, not this one. Then yeah, if you are like this is dog or something, like yeah, something like this. Yeah, if you are able to do it, then but there are different disadvantages to it because it's in English, that which language to use and what to use, difficult for computers to understand, spelling mistakes. So that is also one of the thing that was mentioned in ISO 8000 in this training material. So I thought maybe it's better to give a summary to it. What are the disadvantages of using data labels? Rather than data labels, you can use the identifiers or the codes, and that code is given reference to the EOTD, that is ECCMA's Open Technical Dictionary. Okay guys, so this is it, and have a nice day guys. I hope from auditor point, if I want to summarize it, then there are different advantages to it, because if someone is auditing you, then you can already say that these are the features of ISO 8000 you have implemented, and that gives already an impression that how mature the organization is. And then some templates, some reports that you are maintaining for showcasing to your customers that the data team is of high maturity and high standard, and yeah, you're able to make contracts for seeking data from the manufacturer, so that you have a nice standardized way of exchanging the data. And then you already know about standard definitions, that is what is a structured data, what is data quality, what is master data. You know the standard definitions. So this was the message that I want to convey, that these are the learnings of mine from Master Data Quality Manager training, and this is given by ECCMA, and this is it. This is what I wanted to share with you guys. Okay guys, have a nice day, and we'll see each other in the next video. If you have further questions, please write me a comment. My YouTube channel is Lazy Yogis, and you can find me here. Just like and subscribe. That gives me a kind of a boost to make further videos towards it. Even if you don't like, then that is not a problem, because I am a data savvy guy, and I keep on making this kind of videos. Okay, have a nice day guys.